Now we're back to plugins. I love this game from OpenAI to confuse the fuck out of us, but that's fine. One thing that's big, and I think you went super duper viral when the Cloud Code leak happened, and you posted breaking. OpenAI also released a bunch of open source, and Codex was open source all along. We made the joke. That was really funny. Tell us about Codex. You guys just hit a milestone.
Yes. First of all, like regarding that tweet, like it was just like a tongue-in-cheek thing. Like I thought like it'll get like maybe like 5,000, 10,000 views,
Yes.
and it'll be it. It was just like like just pointing out the obvious that Codex the CLI, the harness, as well as the sandbox, pretty much everything about Codex that you use either on Mac OS or Windows is fully open source. You can go on github.com/openai/codex, and you have like a you can sort of build on top of that. We also have Codex App Server, which you can use to sort of like interact with Codex, like the Codex IDE extension builds on top of App Server.
I would love to hear about App Server specifically, because it's kind of like a backwards auth that you can use your open account to use a bunch of stuff that people have been waiting for a long time.
Yeah, you can use it as like an SDK to like sort of like program around Codex, use it to send messages, receive messages, like pretty much like build experiences similar to Codex IDE extension the same way. And yeah, I mean, just generally speaking, Codex has been on a tear, right? We recently crossed a pretty massive milestone. We have 3 million weekly active users.
3 million weekly active users.
That's
just now. After 2 million weekly active users, last month, like in the middle of this month, something.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. It's even within OpenAI, like you can see like the sort of like growth and like the uptick of Codex within has been like meteoric, right? At the same time, like all of this started when we released Codex the App, which was earlier this year. It's just like a really nice and intuitive way to interact with Codex with like multiple projects and like have multiple threads at the same time, use work trees to sort of isolate your changes and so on.
Yeah. Codex the App is dope. I love Codex the App. Some updates there is plugins, I think, is the recent one, the newest one. Could you just tell us about plugins?
Sure. So,
because like, I will preface this. OpenAI had plugins before. ChatGPT plugins is the first iteration of App Store. Then custom GPTs, second iteration of App Store. Then MCP apps or whatever built on MCP apps in Chatbot. Now we're back to plugins. I love this game from OpenAI to confuse the fuck out of us, but that's fine. Where Codex used to be a coding model, then became a product. It's also a coding model, but now plugins in Codex.
I think there's like there's a bit of nuance there, right? So if you look at a plugin, at the end of the day, a plugin is like, if you sort of disintegrate a plugin, all you get is like a bunch of skills, right? An MCP server, and like things to sort of like tie it up together as a package, right? And the reason why this becomes quite important is if you look at plugins like build iOS apps or like build web apps, like these are plugins which come curated, packaged within your Codex app or Codex CLI. What they allow you to do is they allow you to bring like experiences like Stripe. They allow you to bring experience like Supabase and like a couple of our shadcn CLI, shadcn best practices and so on, so that you can then call these plugins and like just essentially this package and like build apps, web apps, and so on and so forth together along with it. And this is kind of like a nice way to package lots of things like connectors. Like for example, you can connect directly with Google Drive, and like Google Drive can then like have access to your calendar, have access to your email, have access to Slack, for example, and then you can use that to for a lot of knowledge work related tasks and so on and so forth, right? And we're starting to see this become like a core part of people's workflows. For example, every day at 9 a.m., Codex uses an automation for me, which would look through all the Slack messages in the past 24 hours, look through, like I ask Codex to look through all the messages and like threads where I've been tagged, and like sort of mark it explicitly which all tasks should I like pay attention to? Where have I been like explicitly called out to like do something? Where there's an action item, where am I lacking? And contextualize that with my Gmail, Gmail, see like what's important, what's not, and layer that in with my calendar and like try and give me spaces where I can like work on these things. And honestly
that's
speaking,
not coding related at all. This is like a general work thing that every knowledge worker would benefit from.
Exactly, and I've also had like Codex just create like pre-briefing docs for myself, right? You know, like if I'm going into a meeting with someone and I'm lacking context, or like I'm like in back-to-back meetings, I would just have Codex sort of like pull up something, create a small calendar event. I wish I had my laptop. I would have showed it to you, but like it just creates like a small like 5-minute event, which would just have like pre-brief for myself for that event.
Oh, that's dope.
And this is all possible because of plugins.